Okay, so you guys saw that little bit of the car wreck and could be thinking, hey man, what happened? Here's the story of what was going on. It ended up cutting me short on working on the car here because that was my son. On Mother's Day, I get a phone call down here at the barn at probably about 4 o'clock. Dad, I just got in a car wreck. Can you come down here? Where are you at? It's about 5 miles away from here. And I just, are you okay? I'm okay, I'm out of the truck, but I think the truck's pretty bad. I was not expecting what I saw. And you can see from these pictures that I was not expecting a boat to be lodged into the back of a minivan.
Oh, he's still trying.
Change your plans, let me know.
Flight change. Oh, it's coming.
Back on the trailer.
Nothing a little Bondo won't fix.
This was a 4-car accident. William was up on the back portion of this, and the gentleman that was in front of him with the boat never had his trailer lights hooked up. I will say this. If you guys are towing a boat, car, camper, whatever, hook up your trailer lights, all right? If you don't do that, then you're asking for somebody to possibly rear-end your vehicle. And I will say this, nobody was seriously injured, nobody went medevac, nothing like that. Because when I came there and I saw what you guys just saw, you can think the worst. You can absolutely think the worst. And all I can say is, by the grace of God, nobody ended up really severely hurt. I think everybody had a guardian angel on their shoulder on Mother's Day for sure. And I am just thanking the good Lord that the boy's all right, everybody there is all right, but the boy's okay. And it's just like in drag racing, man, you know, cars are replaceable. Your loved ones and people are not. And it's, I'm very thankful that he's okay. So we're going to be finding him a new vehicle. He just, he's going to college. He's going to be starting his first year of college this year. So we got to find him something, and we'll get all that stuff situated here.
All right, so before we get on what's going on with Cheap Date, what is Drop the Hammer? Well, let me tell you, this is a drag and drive event local here to Michigan that is a little bit smaller. It's about a 150 car field, but it's going to be a fun entry level. We've never done drag and drive, so me and the wife are going to be doing this one with this 2000 SVT Lightning. It's a 3-day long event. It's sponsored by Steve Morris Racing Engines. There's going to be tons of people there. We're going to have lots of footage for you guys to check out. So hopefully you'll dig that. So I tell you what, let's get back into Cheap Date and let me show you where we are at. Obviously the hood's off the car. I took the radiator out because that fan setup is shot. It burned up, it's junk, it's crap, it's gone. Well here, I'll show you exactly what I ended up doing to it. I ended up doing a fan shroud. We got a pair of twin 10-inch Spall fans on it now. Got that whole setup done. This is all good to go. I still got to wire up the relays for it, little stuff like that, but this will do the job compared to not having one on at all. Now what we're going to do in here is, I have the intake manifold. Let me go back to the back of the car. I can show you what the heck's going on. Let me show you the parts. Obviously we got tons of stuff. We got some gauges in here, rear end cover, a girdled rear end cover in here. These are the BMR control arms that we're going to do for the rear end. And you could be going, what rear end are you guys using? You were looking to upgrade. We upgraded. Oh, yes. We found this. That is a 12-bolt out of a 72 Chevelle. It is fully rebuilt. Richmond 331s, Eaton Pause unit, stock axles. I also have right there from Power Stop a full drum rebuild kit, so we're going to rebuild all the brakes on it and all that stuff. Then we are going to put on this full BMR upper and lower control arm kit, so we got that. These are the shocks that we're going to run. We're going to put in three-way adjustable comp engineerings, and I know there's better shocks out there and all that stuff. Guys, we're doing this cheap date, so I just want to make it clear because I'm sure some people are going to go, oh man, run the QA1s or AFCOs. Those are $300 shocks a piece. These were like 65, 70 bucks. These flat out work. The black Camaro, that Camaro, with a 496 on a 150 shot, I was running 940s in that car with competition engineering shocks and a set of Southside Machine lift bars. Basic stuff that I've ran a bunch of times, and in G bodies, A bodies, I've ran these, and they work okay. They're not equal to a QA1 or an AFCO. I am not saying that, but they work if you're doing this on a budget. So we're throwing those in there. We got drive shaft loop. That is a complete rebuild bushing kit that's all polyurethane for the front sway bar because we still want this to go down the road nice. The intake manifold, I went through and I fully ported that out, so this is all done. This is the Nitrous kit we're going to be running, which is a Nitrous outlet. This is the Weekend Warrior kit. And when I ported it to where you get the idea, where it's a little bit better squared up to this. Before it was, I wish I would have taken a before and after. But what I also did was I rounded it through here, all my edges in here, around here, and then I went through and then ported it all the way up and in to where that initial curve would be. Just pulled it out there, and inside the runner, dual planes are not a very big volume intake manifold. So if you want to start to get a little bit more upper RPM out of it, well, you got to create a little more volume in the intake. That's what I did. So this will be going on. That is the torque converter. That is a Summit Nitrous converter. That is a 2800 to 3200, so it should be about a 3000 stall. Line lock kit, gaskets and nitrous jets, and then that is the fuel cell that's going to be going up front because we are going to run a standalone fuel system for this thing. Main reason why we're doing this is that motor has got hypereutectic pistons in it. And I will say this, if you guys have not run a hypereutectic piston and tried to spray it, your window for screwing up is not as forgiving as a forged piston. So we're going to try to get this car to run 1150s, and to do so, I think we're going to have to put at least 150 down this thing to make it happen. And that down this motor, and this motor right now is probably making, like I said before, 430, maybe 440 horse. Change the intake manifold around, etc., lose a little bit here, blah, blah, blah. But we're going to need like upper 500s to get this thing to run 1150s. A hypereutectic piston with 150 shot, that's a lot. That's just a lot. So one of the things that you can do as a safety precaution is not rely on the fuel system in the trunk or in the back of the car and then just run a regulator and call it a day. Having your own standalone that we have 110 or C16 in that's getting sprayed in on that, and then I'm going to flow it like what I would flow, you know, the red car over there that's underneath the cover, or anything that I would put a big nitrous kit. We're going to flow the system out, and I'm going to make it as perfect as I can, and cross our fingers that we make that 1150 mark. But this is part of the fun of cheap date. You're trying to do it on a budget, so that's what we're trying to do. So here we are, intake is off, valve covers are off just to check some things out. In the valley here, everything looks okay. But the one thing I don't like is I noticed this on these rockers. If it's hard for you guys to see, See how they're kind of beaten up? And you see that retainer? It's also kind of beaten up. But the rest of them look fine. Except number 8. Just all of this in here. You know, and they're as loose as what the other ones are that aren't, you know, underneath, you know, aren't getting pressed, that are actually at 0 in that sense. Just didn't like that. And then on the back side of the valve cover, there's some witness marks in the valve cover too, almost like if you took a nut or something like that and dropped it in there and it just bounced around. I don't know. I'm gonna have to talk to Joe and Dylan about that to see if maybe they heard some noises or something like that. Okay, so I got off the phone with Dylan after I sent him a picture of those rocker arms, and I completely forgot about it. But when I first built this motor and we put it in his Monte Carlo, he had a problem where the number 2 cylinder, the poly locks backed off and just like came off and danced around in there, and they got not wedged, but they got stuck in number 8 cylinder. Those 2 rocker arms on number 2 came out, lifters came out, and then he thought a rod let go, pulled the valve cover off, and just found out that, you know, 2 rockers. So we ended up putting the lifters back in and putting the rockers back on, adjusting, and nothing bad happened. And, you know, obviously he drove it for the rest of the life that he had it for, so everything was all right. That's what the witness marks came from. So, woo, everything's okay in that sense. I was going to show you guys this on the intake manifold. There's your Performer RPM, and it's down flat on the deck surface. There's your Performer RPM compared to a Speedmaster. Now, yes, it's a 1-inch spacer plate on there, but from pad to pad is an 1.5 inch difference. That is going to have a 1/2 inch nitrous plate on it, so that would be a 2.5 inch difference, including that 1 inch right there, minus a half. So we are going to get roughly about a 1.5 inch deduction on the intake manifold. So at that point, we should be able to run a normal air cleaner. If you guys don't remember the air cleaner Joe had on this thing, this is what he had on it, and then he ended up having to chop the filter up to where it would fit, and we're not running that garbage. We're going to actually put a nice K&N on this thing. So that is kind of a news update of what has actually happened. So we can now move forward, get the intake on. Like I said, everything's all cleaned up, ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to throw that Performer RPM on it. All right, so this is the Nitrous kit from Nitrous Outlets. This is called the Weekend Warrior, and this is a great entry-level kit, 50 to 175 for you guys out there that remember the old NOS Super Power Shots. It's basically the same kit. That plate will go to 350. You just have to upgrade your solenoids if you want to go that far, which is nice because then you don't have to spend as much money to go there. Also, you get a huge jet assortment. I do wish these were stainless, but again, this is an entry level, so you get these brass ones. Reason why is if you look close, you can see all your different fuel pressures. Well, you have to make up for that in your jetting. Also, if you want to, you can tune this for E85. So that makes this kit really, really nice. I like it in that sense. So let's get this thing installed. You might be asking yourself, what pills are you going to first put into it? Well, I'm going to show you, but let's get it installed on the car first. So here's where we are at. I went through, and as you can definitely tell, I went through and I polished all the front pulleys out. I repainted the block, pulled the valve covers off, repainted the valve covers, and detailed all that stuff up really nice. We now got that Performer RPM on there. Nitrous kit's hooked up. I even went through and cleaned up the carburetor. So looking way better than when it first did. Now, I have not gone through and done the engine compartment. I did like paint that inside fender just to kind of get things going. But that, my friends, is where we're at so far with this. So it's definitely coming along. You know, I mean, we had Mother's Day weekend and everything that happened over the weekend. So next thing is going to be putting in the radiator and just getting the nitrous system and all that figured out and done. And like I said, I'm going to show you guys just the basics of hooking up a standalone fuel system that you can do yourself. That is for a small nitrous hit like this, all the way to a, you know,
all the way to a 7-second car like that, you know, or even multi-stages. But it's just going to be a nice, easy standalone system that you yourself can do, and there will be some subtle variations of how you can make it a little cheaper or a little more expensive. So I hope you guys dig what's going on here with good old Cheap Date, and hopefully upcoming episodes on the motors that are down over at Steve Morris Engines. So we got a whole lot coming at you guys. So till I see you guys again, hope to see you at the racetrack. See ya!